Hey guys, Kevin Plowy here, and it is a pleasure to be back in NYC this week hosting here at Build Series. Our favorite number cruncher turned action hero Jack Ryan is back on screens this month in the Amazon Prime original series that bears his name. And here to talk about her role as Haneen is breakout, groundbreaking actress Dina Shihabi. We're going to have Dina out here in just a minute, but first, here's a sneak peek at Jack Ryan, premiering on Amazon Prime August 31st.
You do this often? Kidnapping people off the street and interrogate them.
You're my first one, actually. How am I doing?
Shoot me. I drop this and we all die.
What exactly does a State Department supply chain logistician do?
They work behind the desk. They write reports.
That sounds...
Why?
Dr. Ryan, I need you to come with me.
For what?
We have to go.
Maybe I'm foolish, maybe I'm blind.
What have you got?
The individual behind these transactions could be a high-level target. His name is Suleiman.
How come you're the only one that knows about this mystery man?
I was just following the money, sir.
They have cells in France, Yemen, Syria, and those are just the ones we know about.
There's something different about his agenda.
I'd like to set up a task force.
Whatever he's planning, he's ready now.
I can't go to Yemen. I'm an analyst. I don't interrogate people, I write reports.
Get on the plane.
We gotta figure out a way to get inside his head.
Musa bin Sulaiman is my husband. He don't know where I am. My son is with him.
Is he planning something here?
Paris was only the beginning.
Just follow along. Watch and learn.
We have to chase this down.
My son. Get him back. Promise me.
I promise you, I'm the best chance you have.
I'm just a man. I do what I can, don't put the blame on me.
All right, give it up for Dina Shihabi. Dina, what is up? How are you?
Oh my God, I'm so good. I feel like I'm dreaming a little bit.
So this is kind of a homecoming for you.
Yes.
You spent some time right across the street at NYU.
At NYU in the Tisch building.
In the Tisch
fifth
building.
Floor, the grad school.
You are back in the hood.
I'm back in the hood. It's really a wild feeling. We were driving past and I kind of screamed when I saw it and I was like, is it around here? Because it's just, you're there and I was there for 3 years and you just never know what's going to happen. And so to be here, like talking to you and talking about something I'm so proud of.
New Amazon Prime series.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's so cool.
Well,
so
congrats.
Cool.
You are great in this series. I got
so
to check out a few episodes. Premieres August 31st. Let's get right into this. This is a major breakout for you. What was the process like of locking it in? Was this an audition cycle? What would you have to go through to get this?
Yeah, I'd actually. I had flown to New York because there was a play that I was sent. I just moved to LA 6 months before, and I was sent a play that I loved. And so I flew myself out here to audition for the play. I got here at 9:30 p.m. on a Thursday. While I was on the plane, I got sent the script and the sides to audition, and taped it that night with my friend Rana, who I grew up with actually in Dubai. So she's a childhood friend. Sent it in the next morning, and then didn't hear anything. And I fell in love with it immediately. I read it and immediately felt a strong connection to it, and I would always ask about it. And they were like, no, they haven't made any decisions, and I never got that play that I flew here for. I didn't even get a call back for it.
So you had to settle for this.
I had to settle for this. I didn't get the play.
Yeah.
And then I think 2 months later, something like that, I got a call from my agent, again on a Thursday, saying that on Monday they wanted to test me. And then I went in, and it was me and like 2 other girls. And I went in to the room with like producers and auditioned, and it was actually an amazing experience. I I worked with the director, and they had Carlton Cuse, one of the showrunners, had an actor named Tori Kittles who is on his show, one of his shows, Colony. He's an amazing actor. He had him come read with me, so I got to like work with an actor, which was life-changing. Everyone should do that. It makes such a huge difference. And I'm very grateful to him. And and then so it was this kind of amazing, like I was in there for like almost an hour, I think. And then again, they made me wait for a few more weeks. I remember like I was just like dying. And then I got a call at 10 p.m. one night. My manager told me, and I just didn't sleep for 2 weeks because I couldn't believe I got it. Yeah, it was awesome.
So at what point in the process did you meet this handsome bastard
Look at how
who
great
we know and
he
love,
looks.
John Krasinski?
I just like went to reach for his like
He's not real.
I guess.
He's not actually there.
That was awkward. He's the best.
He is.
Oh my god.
He's the nicest
I love
guy
him
in showbiz.
so
He's a good
much.
guy.
He in the airport, in immigration, actually. I was like sitting in a corner with like glasses on, like just waiting. We had to go through, we shot in Montreal first, so this is awesome. I'm like talking to you, but there's all these people that I can look out at. And I was like sitting, I actually on the plane sat next to his makeup artist. Have you met Kelly? She's amazing. And she was my first friend. And so she kind of ran up to him when she saw him and like embraced him. And I was really shy. I was like, what do I do? Like, do I go up and like say hi? Like, even though I'm cast in the same show, I was just like a little starstruck. And he like saw me and just like yelled out my name and like ran to me and was like, we knew it was you from the first time, and was like so complimentary, and it meant the world to me because you go through like months of like being terrified of like, even though you got it, you're like, yeah, but did I really get it? Are they still gonna want me when I get there? That's at least my maniac mind. That's how I think. So for him to just immediately like inject me with like so much like love and support, and that never, I mean, you know him, like it never ended. Like that was working with him for the whole time.
It sounds like there was a little bit of like life imitating art. So he's aware of your auditions. He said he wanted you from
because
the
he's a
beginning.
producer on the show.
Right. So he's kind of like he's in these back rooms probably watching you on monitors.
Yeah. Much like the show.
Jack
That's
Ryan
so true.
Is taking in all the action as part of the CIA.
Yeah.
So I know that Amazon wants us to be kind of tight-lipped about plot details until this premieres on the 31st. But let's talk some Haneen. What are you allowed to say about her?
I'm allowed to say that I play a mother of 3. I'm married to Suleiman, who's a man who considers himself just trying to do the best he can for his people. But he ultimately, is like takes out these, extremely like monstrous, like terrorist attacks. But what is special about our show, because I'm not interested in like deepening the fear of Arabs. I want to tell, more nuanced storylines and show who we really are too. But what is special about this is that it takes something that we see in the media a lot, this, the terrorist plot, and it uncovers actually like what made him that way. So we meet him in the first episode as a child, and you see
In the very first scene.
first scene, the show starts with him as a child, him and his brother playing and with his family, and then you get to see what happens to his family, and there's like a Western plane that comes and like bombs Lebanon where he lives, and his whole family dies except him and his brother, and his brother is severely injured, and he has to, help him. And so that's like a very loud example of what the show does. It, it shows you how someone becomes who they are, which I think is really important, because if we continue to point at each other and say like, you're evil, nothing's ever going to change, and we're actually just going to get more and more discriminatory and like less and less compassionate. And so I think the show does a really good job in humanizing people that you would just point at and say is a monster.
Absolutely, yeah. The portrayal of that character, I mean, specifically Suleiman, right? I mean, you mentioned the fact that we get into the backstory.
Yeah.
You know, he's in Lebanon, 1983. His village is bombed by Western, probably U.S. forces, right? And just the humanization of him in general, the way he interacts with Hanin.
Yeah, I get to show that he loves his wife and he loves his children, and my character, like Hanin, loves him too, and getting to really like get intimate with a family in that way, with an Arab family, with a Muslim family, is really important to me. That was a huge thing that Ali Sleiman, the guy who played that character, who's an amazing actor, we would speak for hours and hours and hours before we started shooting about like the love between these two people and how important it was to be to make sure that was a huge part of it and that we really showed it and showed that intimacy, you know?
Hanin is going to become a major character as season 1 progresses.
Yeah.
You know, at first we kind of see snippets into her life. We know that she's going to be a pivotal character. We know she's going to have some effect on what happens with Suleiman, what happens with the larger stakes at hand in this series. But we don't know all that much about her. We know that we see sort of in her dealings with her children, with her husband, with the people that have sort of like moved into their surroundings that she objects to, that she's tough, she's shrewd, she's definitely fierce, especially when she needs to be. But how did you approach her? Did you give her a backstory that isn't necessarily represented in the show? Yeah,
she has a backstory that actually that you get into in like the first few episodes. In the 3rd episode, I think, you get a little kind of more information as to like where she came from and how her and Suleiman got together. But yeah, you know, I mean, that's what I do with a character. I kind of daydream and create a world for them and take all the information I have in the script. And luckily, because we shot all 8 hours, there were good sides to that and also really challenging sides to that, but we shot all 8 hours out of order. So we got all the scripts before we started. So I was able to have, you know, a framework of who she was on paper. And then from that, brought things that I thought, you know, could be authentic to her and felt authentic to her and felt authentic to me. And a lot of it was, you know, just... I had all these ideas of how I would play her, and then I showed up, and then there were kids on set. And one thing I learned really fast when you act with kids is that, like, you can't think about yourself ever. Like, you can't be like, I'm going to, like, prepare and get into it and go, or because they just want your attention all the time. So I feel like that kept, like, a very kind of spontaneous, like, realness to it all. And it was all very much in the moment, you know?
Well, that's her backstory. I want to talk about your backstory because it is an incredible one. You know, there's this old sort of like cliche, this old trope about, you know, young starlets going to Hollywood for the first time and they're getting on the bus in Idaho and getting off in, you know, Hollywood Boulevard. You did not do that.
No.
You took a plane from the Middle East to the East Coast. Tell us your story and how you got here today.
Yes. So I was born in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. And when I was 7, I moved to Dubai. And then when I was 14, was in Beirut for a year and then back to Dubai. But that year in Beirut was very important because I grew up as a dancer in Dubai. I danced with a woman named Sharmila Kamte, who is changing lives till today. She's an incredible woman. And she started this professional dance company in Dubai. And when I was 12, I was like chosen to be a part of it. I started dancing with her when I was 11 and was obsessed and I was terrible. And I was like, I went to my parents and I was like, I'm going to be a professional dancer. And they were like, you're terrible at it, but great. They
gave it to you straight, just like that.
Yeah, the Arabs don't pretend. That's what's great about them is that they'll, like, anything that I'll show them, they'll be like, that was bad, or like, that was really good. Like, they don't care about, you know, being like sensitive or anything. They keep it real. And then, but I was so obsessed with it that I just like practiced every day and then started dancing with Sharmila when I was 12 and she was like my mentor. And then when I was 14, my dad actually, I think wanted us to be more Arab. Like Dubai, you can kind of get away with like speaking English. It's a very cosmopolitan,
right?
Yeah. It's very culturally Arab, and so you still have that, but in terms of like language and stuff. So we moved to Beirut. My grandfather was also sick at the time, so that was also another reason. And but I was heartbroken. I was so pissed off. I was like, "You're ruining my life. Like you're evil," you know. And then I mean, have you ever been to Lebanon?
I have not, no.
Oh my God, it's just the best place. Has anyone here been to Lebanon? It's amazing. It's magic. I loved it so much, but I didn't have a dance company there, and so I started acting. And then a year later, when we moved back to Dubai, I was like very focused on doing both, and then decided to apply to musical theater programs because I was like, I'm a dancer and an actor, like that's what you do. But I didn't know what a monologue was, and like not really. Like I remember doing them in like class a little bit, but I thought that I could get away with like just making up lines, like based on like what I understood, true story, understood of the play. You'd think that I'd be some sort of like savant and they'd think I was a genius. They did not. They were like, I think I remember I was like in a university, and the guy was like sitting at the back of the theater, and I remember him like after I finished my like interpretation of like whatever it was, like Orpheus descending or something, like really nothing that I understood. He like walked all the way down towards me and he was like, "So are you auditioning for other programs?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "I think you should like reconsider like going and doing this for a living."
Wow.
But I had such like blind faith that like it didn't even faze me. I was like, "Oh, he doesn't know anything, you know, or whatever." I wish I had that now. Now I'm like, does that person like me? And then didn't get in anywhere. Not even close. And then I got into like a conservatory, like a 2-year conservatory. So I moved to New York, would do that during the day and then dance at night. And then I got a dance agent and I started like dancing for like SNL. I would do like the digital shorts and that kind of stuff. But the more and more I started acting, the more I wanted to act. And so then I decided to apply to Juilliard, and the guy who was coaching me was like, "You should also apply to NYU's grad acting program." And I was like, "I don't have an undergrad degree." He's like, "You're not gonna get in, just like audition anyway." And I remember I was like, and I told you I wanted NYU. And so I remember I was across the street auditioning for like the heads of the program, and they were like, Mark is like the head of the program. He's like from England. He's like, "You know, you don't have a bachelor's degree. Like, what's this about?" And I was like, "Yeah, I just thought I'd audition anyway." Like I was such a like, I was like such a like whatever. I was like, "Yeah, I thought of whatever. I don't like that's what people do, right?" And then I ended up getting into both programs, and NYU gave me a waiver, so I graduated with an MFA from NYU. Yeah. So it all worked out.
And you're being modest. You kind of made history in the process. You became the first woman of Middle Eastern descent to get into both of those programs.
Yeah, that's
an amazing accomplishment.
Thanks, but you know what? I really think like there's so much talent from there, and they just need to know that it's possible. I think there's just like my parents are amazing, and they like even though my dad had, you know, it took him a while to come to terms with what I was choosing to do, they still like let me do it. Do you know what I mean? And like they still believed in me, you know, and I think that really helped.
Yeah, no, I wanted to ask you about that because I mean, I know we as Americans tend to stereotype other cultures and regions, and the stereotype around the Middle East is that people tend to be ultra religious, ultra conservative. Would you say that your parents were more on the progressive side of the spectrum?
Yeah.
Obviously, there's a spectrum in every culture, which is what we tend to gloss over when we stereotype, right? But how would you explain like your parents' relationship with your career choices?
Yeah, I think you know, my mother was raised in the south of France, and she's half Arab, half German Haitian, and she was like raised in Montpellier in the south of France. And my dad's half Norwegian, half Saudi. So they're mixed, and they went to college in the States, and so they see the world with a kind of more like, you know, grand worldview and highly intelligent. And so I feel like even at times that I've, you know, made decisions, or even when I started doing this that they didn't completely understand or didn't agree with, they sort of like evolved with me. And that's what's really cool. I feel like me and my parents have like grown up together, you know, and especially my dad, like he's done such a huge like jump into the dark with me sort of because he loves me and just wants me to be happy. And so, yeah, not, you know, my dad's religious and culturally, very Saudi, but he's also like, just wants me to be happy. And so he just kind of like, we accept each other for our differences and also like grow together and evolve. They're amazing. I have really the best parents. Yeah.
So had you been to New York before you moved here at 18 from halfway around the world?
I'd been once. Yeah, I'd been once to do like a hip hop. I was a hip hop dancer growing up. So I did once like do like a hip hop like workshop, like summer workshop. That was in Brooklyn for 3 weeks. And so I did that, and then I would like go take dance classes at Broadway Dance Center.
What do you remember about your first like few days living in New York City?
Everyone wanted to have Chinese food, which was really weird to me. And I remember that like they made us, we were living in Brooklyn, and they made us like walk into the middle of nowhere to like get Chinese food. And they're like, this is the best Chinese food ever. And I just remember being like, this is gross. Like why are people in New York obsessed with Chinese food? But no, I'm being silly, but no, I fell in love with New York the second I got here. I knew I had to come here, and I had to figure out a way. It's the best city. I mean, the rest of the world looks at New York and we're like, I'm sure America has that too. And we're just like, that is where dreams come true. Like that is the only place you can go to and make anything happen. And so I just like think of myself at that age coming out here. And I was just so sure, that I had to be here. And I'm really glad that I had that, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Belief, because
we both sold out and moved to Los Angeles.
I sold out though.
But there's no doubt this is the greatest city in the world. I would never trade my years here.
I think everyone should live in New York if they haven't. And I love New York so much, but I also love Los Angeles. I'm a huge LA fan. Are you too?
I've gotten there, yeah. More and more.
It's great. Yeah.
So do you still dance?
I do.
You do? I
do, yeah. I was dancing every day, all day at that point. But I have to. I like feel weird. Actually, I'll start feeling weird if I don't dance. And I won't know why. And I'm like, oh yeah, I haven't been to a dance class in a while. It just feels like it's a part of who I am, you know? And I want to be able to do that forever. I'm not interested in like pursuing it as like a career anymore. I feel very much like an actor, but I'm like a dancer first, so I'd never let go of it.
But we could see you someday in a song and dance musical. That sounds like
that'd be great.
In the realm of possibility.
I just did a play called Dance Nation, where I played we all played teenagers, and I played like star dancer in a dance team in Ohio, which is great. It's on brand, very very typecast.
Yep.
Not at all, which was so cool. And so I got to dance. And because I was like the star dancer or whatever, I got to do like all these like solos, and it was so cool. It was so cool to do both at the same time. I hadn't done that ever.
Well, we know this is already greenlit for season 2, so you're probably going to be doing Jack Ryan.
No, the seasons are an anthology series.
Okay.
So it's like each season's a whole new cast and whole new story. So John keeps going and Wendell Pierce keeps going.
Of course he keeps going.
I know.
Star of the show.
I know. If I could be in it, he'd make it happen.
Yeah. Well, what do you want to do? What would you say is your dream role if you could choose one?
I'd love to play Cleopatra. I think, I think that would be amazing. I write a lot. I'm actually like currently pitching my own show. And so I'd love for like my creations to be on screen. I was getting frustrated at a point because I felt like the stories I wanted to tell like weren't being sent to me in scripts. And that I realized like the people that are going to tell those stories are people like me that come from the world I come from and have those experiences. And so I just started writing a couple of years ago before Jack Ryan. And I'm so glad I did, because I wasn't booking anything, and that's really where it came from. I was like, I want to be able to like do something that I would believe in and that my friends would also, and that, represents us. And then this happened quite soon after. And so I got this like new skill. And so now that this is coming out and that's all kind of coming together, I've like written a pilot about like Saudi women Saudi women in America that I want to sell. I have another story about like an anthology series of like seeing the Middle East through the perspective of women. So each episode is like a woman at a different age from the same family, essentially. And so you get to see like a world through different ages and like different experiences. But it's like, so one season would be like the Middle East, the next season could be like Africa, and then the next season could be like Asia, that kind of thing. So
nice.
That's the kind of stuff I want to do.
You're going to take over this industry, aren't you?
I want to. Yeah. It's my plan.
Yeah. So let's get to some audience questions from you guys.
Yeah.
Hi, so thank you for being here. I was wondering how your background as a dancer translates to your acting method.
It really does. I'm so glad you asked that because I was thinking that when we were talking about it. I feel like I get into characters like in a body way. Like I feel like when I observe people and kind of the way they move, and I feel like I won't ever move the same way as a character. So like with Haneen, it was very important to me that there was like a stoicness to her and a kind of like regalness, and that like my movements were very sort of like thought through, which is also very culturally like that I wouldn't just be like impulsive the way I am until it was like I was in a dire situation and it was like anything I would do. So that was like that's how I feel. Like my body is a part of it. Like I don't kind of go in through my mind. Like I feel like my body is first, Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
Question number 2.
Hey.
Oh, hi.
Hey, how you doing? Hello. I wanted to know, because I enjoyed basically the Sam and
Amir and
Amira.
Sam. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank
So
you.
I enjoyed the movie, and I wanted to know if you would have that big transition in this new project from going to hate, because you definitely hated Sam, and then you loved him, as a film go along.
Yeah.
I want to know if you had any big transitions in the new project.
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. And thank you for watching that movie. We're so proud of it. Martin and I are like still best friends. I think what was important to Ali, the guy who plays my husband in this film, and I, was that we really showed the love between us, so that when I do, have to make a decision in order to protect my kids, that really kind of gets in the way of our marriage, that you're really seeing the cost of that love. And then throughout the show, where I kind of discover who he has become, you get to see like my heart breaking, and so it really stops being about, just a terrorist and his like victim wife, which is she's not at all. She's not a victim at all. You get to see like a marriage breaking apart by a person making a decision that his like life's mission is greater than his family, which is like devastating to her. So you get to see like a loving family fall apart, So yeah.
I wanted to ask you about Amir and Sam, because this was a breakout role for you on the independent film circuit. It got great reviews, played all kind of film festivals. This was this indie drama romance about Martin Starr, you referenced, about a U.S. veteran and an Iraqi immigrant who fall in love, right? So how do you look at that experience as sort of setting your career in motion after the performance of that film?
Yeah, that movie was such a magical shoot. We were all so in love with each other, and it's shot in New York, which is the best place to shoot ever. It's so cool to shoot in New York, especially because like all of like my favorite movies growing up were like set in New York. But I actually auditioned for it when I was in my second year at NYU, and so I did it in the summer between my second and third year. And I'm so glad I did, because I felt like it was an education of working on film, which when we're at NYU, we kind of focus on theater. And I learned so much from Martin. He's such a generous actor, but he's also really like technical. And so I got kind of all of that. So that when I came to do like, Jack Ryan, I knew how to be on set. I knew how to act with a camera, But yeah, I mean, I did that film, and it took about like a year and a half as well to come out. And it's cool. You know what's special about indie films is that I wanted it to have like a much bigger, reaction. I wanted it to, be seen by so many people and that kind of stuff, which is hard with indie film because you don't really have like the marketing budget that you would with a bigger, with what they're doing with Jack Ryan. But what's special about it is that I'll have like moments like on the subway or something when someone has seen it and they're like, oh my God, I saw that movie. And it's this kind of like really special thing you get to share with someone. It almost feels like a secret, you know what I mean?
Right.
that's also really special. That it's like a smaller audience and you get to touch people in a different way. But yeah, it was such a great experience. I'm so proud of that movie. Thank you for watching it.
Great. And I think we've got time for one last question. Hey.
Hi. So since you were discussing you being living in New York for 3 years, what would you say is your favorite New York hotspot?
Oh my God, that's so hard. My favorite, I love walking the Williamsburg Bridge. That's like my favorite. I used to live in Williamsburg, and I used to live in Lower East Side, and so that's something that, I don't know, it just like calms me down. One of my best friends, this woman May, who lives here, we would do that together all the time. We kind of like fell in love as friends doing that, and so that feels like New York to me. Like every time I ride over the bridge and like see the city, like I get butterflies in my stomach. So yeah.
Just to walk anywhere is nice coming from Los Angeles.
And just to walk,
walking
that's
anywhere.
That's the one thing in LA where if you walk, people think you're like on drugs or
you get weird
or like
looks.
lost.
Yeah.
There people are like, "Are you okay?
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
do you want to ride?"
Yeah,
like,
okay, yeah.
and you're like, "I'm fine. I'm just getting a coffee." Like,
just going to 7-Eleven.
Exactly. I'm just like going to the pharmacy. Like, why are you looking at me like I'm crazy?
So what's next for you? You taking a walk across the Williamsburg Bridge this
Today?
afternoon?
We have some other stuff to do, but I was actually gonna like run over at NYU and see if I can like see a teacher.
Oh, you got it.
Is that so dorky? I'd be like, guys, I'm across the street. Because it is like, it's just like, it's such a miracle when anything like this happens in our industry. And I feel so like lucky and grateful.
So good to talk to you today.
You
Dina,
too.
thank you for being
so
here. Thank you
much.
guys for being here. Jack Ryan, August 31st. See you next time. Thank you.
Thank you. That was so good.